The moment I finalized the divorce papers, quietly, without a tremor in my hand, I knew I wasn't walking away from a marriage. I was walking away from a war I'd never agreed to fight. I left the courthouse with no tears, no screaming, no "how could you" speeches, just calm steps on polished tiles. But that calm wasn't peace. Not yet. It was the stillness right before a storm realizes it's collapsing into itself. Because while I moved silently, he moved loudly. The lies spread fast, like smoke from a fire he swore he didn't start. Suddenly, I was unstable, ungrateful, lazy, unloving, depending on which audience he needed sympathy from that day. He painted me as the villain of a story he authored, edited, and performed like a man desperate for applause. And every time I heard about a new rumor, all I felt was a strange, numbing distance. Not pain, not anger, just absence. He expected rage. He wanted a reaction, some emotional explosion he could point to and say, "See, this is why I left." Instead, I gave him silence. But silence can be misunderstood. People think silence is surrender. They think it's weakness or defeat or the muted cry of someone who's too fragile to fight. No, my silence wasn't fragility. It was strategy. I walked away without looking back because I understood something he had never learned. When you stop needing someone to understand your worth, you stop giving them the power to diminish it. Still, my heart wasn't healed, not then. The first weeks were quiet, but they were filled with tiny aches. Opening a drawer and finding his old watch, seeing the indentation on the couch where he used to sit, accidentally saying "we" out of habit, adjusting to the echo of a house suddenly too big for one person. But every day that ache loosened, and in its place something else began to grow. I enrolled in classes, late nights at my desk studying, the soft glow of a lamp warming my face. I started walking in the mornings, feeling my lungs open for the first time in years. I cut off the friends who only called to ask about him, not me. I rebuilt my finances, slowly, steadily, until I had a cushion, then a savings, then something close to security. I stopped checking his social media entirely. Unfollowed, unbothered, unattached. People whispered that he moved on quickly, faster than expected. Some said he looked so happy with her, the woman he claimed was just a friend long before our marriage ended. But all of that belonged to a world I no longer lived in. The new world I built was clean, quiet, rooted. My routines became rituals, my home became a sanctuary, my life became mine again. One evening, months later, I sat at my dining table with candles lit, soft jazz playing, a steaming bowl of pasta in front of me. A peaceful, ordinary moment. A moment so gentle it felt sacred. And that's when it hit me. I didn't miss him. Not even a little. But the universe wasn't done with me. A friend texted me out of nowhere. "He saw you today." I frowned, confused. "Where?" "At the hotel downtown. You were giving a presentation, right? He was there. He didn't talk to you, but girl, you should have seen his face." My heart didn't skip. It didn't flutter. It didn't ache. Instead, curiosity tugged at me. "What face?" I asked. She replied instantly, like he'd seen a ghost and realized he messed up the haunting. I let the phone fall onto the table. For the first time since our split, the past knocked, not with sorrow, but with a strange, unexpected shift. Because maybe healing doesn't always happen quietly. Sometimes it echoes. And sometimes the person who hurt you hears that echo long before you ever intended them to. I didn't think much of that text until 3 days later when another message came, this time from someone I hadn't spoken to since the divorce, his cousin, Tiana. She and I were never close, but we had a mutual respect, the kind women share when they recognize each other's quiet strength. So when my phone buzzed and her name popped up, my stomach tightened with a familiar caution. "Call me," she wrote. No context, no emojis, no softness. I hesitated, staring at the screen. Part of me wanted to ignore it. Another part, the old part, the part that used to brace for the next emotional blow, felt that old reflexive tension. But then I remembered who I was becoming, so I called. She answered on the first ring, her voice low and uneasy. "Hey, I didn't know if I should reach out, but something happened today, and you deserve to know." I didn't breathe. "What happened?" "It's him," she said. "He's talking about you again." There was a pause, heavy, reluctant. "And he's not doing well." I leaned back in my chair, the leather sighing beneath me. "Tiana, I'm not interested in his personal—" "No, listen," she cut in gently. "This isn't drama. This is something else." Silence stretched as she searched for words. "He keeps bringing you up, telling people he didn't realize what he lost, that he didn't think you'd move on so easily." She exhaled shakily. "He saw you last week, and it messed him up more than he'll admit." A strange sensation moved through me. Not satisfaction, not revenge, just clarity, like watching someone from a distance make a mistake you warned them about long ago. But before I could respond, Tiana continued. "And he's saying you're doing too much, that the way you came up after the divorce feels intentional, like you're trying to prove something." I laughed softly, almost pityingly. "I'm not proving anything to him." That's exactly what I told him, but he can't process it. He can't understand how you healed without him being part of the story. That part made my chest tighten, because I knew that truth intimately. He always believed he was the center of every universe, especially mine. "So what does he want?" I asked quietly. "That's the thing," she replied. "He won't say, but he's restless, angry, confused, like he expected you to break, and you didn't." I closed my eyes for a moment, absorbing that. For so long, he painted me as fragile, dramatic, incapable of standing on my own, and when I didn't collapse the way he predicted, he had to rewrite the narrative to make sense of a version of me he never believed existed. "He's unraveling," Tiana whispered, "and it's not about you hurting him, it's about the fact that he can't hurt you anymore." A shiver ran through me, because deep down, I knew she was right. But the conversation wasn't finished. "Look," she said carefully, "there's something else, something he doesn't know I heard." My fingers tightened around the phone. "He was talking to that woman, the one from the affair, and she said something that made him freeze." "What did she say?" "That she thinks you know something about their relationship, something you're waiting to expose." My brows furrowed. "Expose? I don't care what they do." "I know you don't, but she doesn't believe that. She thinks you've been quiet because you're planning something." And just like that, the first thread of tension pulled taut, because I'd chosen silence for peace, but they were interpreting it as preparation for war. "I figured you should know," she finished. "Whatever this is, they're watching you again." I swallowed slowly. "Thank you for telling me." We hung up, and I sat still for a long moment, feeling the air around me shift, heavy and electric. I hadn't thought about them in months. I hadn't cared. I'd rebuilt my life brick by steady brick. But there's something unsettling about learning that people from your past, especially ones who hurt you, are suddenly paying attention to your present. As if your healing offended them, as if your joy challenged their reality, as if your silence threatened their secrets. I rose from the table and walked to the window. Outside, the streetlights glowed softly, casting long shadows on the pavement. Everything looked peaceful, but inside me, something stirred. Not fear, not dread, but an awareness. A shift, because healing doesn't stop trouble from coming, it just changes the way you face it. My phone buzzed again, another message, but this time it wasn't from Tiana. It was from a number I didn't recognize, a text with no name attached, just one cold sentence. I know why you left, and he doesn't. A chill rolled under my skin, and with that, I realized silence might be power, but it also leaves room for secrets to finally surface. I stared at that message for a long, stretched moment, the words burning against my screen like they'd been crafted to land exactly where my peace lived. I know why you left, and he doesn't. My heartbeat didn't spike, but something deeper shifted. The quiet awareness a woman feels when she realizes someone has been watching her far longer than she realized. I typed back one word, who? The 3 dots never appeared. No reply came. The silence that followed wasn't peaceful. It was calculated. I set the phone down, breathing slowly as I tried to make sense of it. I hadn't left the marriage because of one incident. I left because of years of erosion, gaslighting, emotional neglect, disrespect disguised as humor, ambition twisted into competition. He chipped away at me piece by piece until I realized I was disappearing. But there was one moment, one very specific moment I never told him about. A moment that changed everything, a moment no one should know. And that's what made the message dangerous. Because whoever sent it wasn't guessing, they were informing me. I walked into the kitchen, trying to shake off the feeling clawing at my spine. I poured myself a glass of water, but the moment I lifted it, my hand trembled slightly. That's when I knew. This wasn't about my past, it was about something coming. My phone buzzed again, this time a call. Tiana. I answered immediately. Hey. Her voice came in loud and frantic. Did you tell anyone what I said? What? No, why? He showed up at my apartment. Her breath was shaky. He was furious, accusing me of getting in his business, asking why I was feeding you lies. I gripped the counter. Are you okay? Yes, but he looked different, not angry, scared. She swallowed audibly, and he kept asking whether you were planning something. A chill crept up my back. I'm not planning anything, I said softly. I told him that, she replied, but then he said something that shook me. Another pause. He said, if she finds out, it won't just ruin me, it'll ruin everything. My stomach dropped. What does he think I'm going to find out? I asked. I don't know, she whispered, but it sounds like there's something he's hiding, something big. I closed my eyes. Tiana, listen, did he mention the woman he had the affair with? Yes, she said. He said she's been on edge too, like she's worried something is about to come out. My throat tightened. Come out from where? Madeline, she hesitated. Then her voice shook. They think you're the one who knows. I leaned over the counter, trying to steady my breath. This was spiraling into something I never invited, never chased, never wanted. Tiana, I said carefully, if he or she contacts you again, block them, don't respond, don't engage. I will, she promised, but please be careful. Something feels off, really off. We hung up. I stood there in the kitchen, lights dim, house too quiet. My mind raced through every detail of the year before I left him, every whispered conversation, every strange argument, every time he came home acting like he was carrying something heavier than his own guilt. What had he been hiding? What did he think I knew? And who sent that message? My phone buzzed again. Another unknown number. Another message. You left at the right time. She didn't. I stared at it, breath caught in my throat. Before I could react, another message followed. ask him what happened the night he didn't come home. My heart lurched because I remembered that night clearly. His car missing, his phone off, the lie he gave me the next morning, and the faint smell of fear beneath his cologne. I had never pressed him about it. I had been too exhausted then to fight for answers. But now those answers were fighting their way to me. My phone buzzed one more time. A final message. Before she disappeared. My breath slammed to a stop. Disappeared? Who? The woman from the affair? Someone else? A cold truth settled into my bones. This wasn't about healing anymore. This wasn't even about the divorce. This was about something darker, something he thought he'd buried, and someone out there was determined to make me dig it up. Then came the knock. 3 slow, deliberate knocks at my front door. I froze, because no one knocks like that by accident. The knocks weren't loud. They weren't rushed. They were slow, deliberate, spaced evenly, like whoever stood on the other side already knew I was frozen in place, listening, counting each impact with my heartbeat. 3 knocks. Pause. Then silence so thick it pressed against my chest. My breath shallow, I stepped quietly away from the kitchen counter and moved toward the front door. I didn't flip on any additional lights. I didn't call out. I approached slowly, barefoot, the floor cool under my feet. Every instinct sharpened into caution. I peeked through the peephole. At first, all I saw was darkness. Then a shape shifted slightly, leaning back just enough for me to make out a face. But not the one I expected. It was not my ex-husband, not the woman he left me for, not anyone I recognized. A man, tall, still, expression unreadable. He stood with his hands in his pockets, looking up at my door like he knew exactly what messages had been sent to me tonight. My pulse pounded. I didn't open the door. He didn't knock again. Instead, he spoke, quietly but clear enough that the words slid through the wooden door like a blade. Madeline, you shouldn't be alone right now. My stomach dropped. I had never seen this man before. How did he know my name? How did he know I was alone? I remained silent. He exhaled softly, almost like he was disappointed. Did you get the messages? Ice crawled up my spine. I swallowed hard, forcing my voice steady. Who are you? He chuckled once, cold, humorless. Someone trying to help you. My grip tightened on the doorknob, though I still didn't open the door. I don't need help. Yes, he said softly, almost sympathetically, you do. A tremor rippled through my fingers. He continued, you're involved now, whether you want it to be or not. Involved in what? I forced myself to speak again. If you don't leave, I'm calling the police. He replied calmly, already did. That caught me off guard. What? If you open the door, I'll show you the report number. I stepped back involuntarily. Why would you call the police to my house? To protect you. They'll be here in about 10 minutes. My heartbeat stuttered. This was either someone trying to scare me, or someone trying to save me, or someone delivering a message much bigger than both. Madeline, he continued, voice low and steady, you walked away from your marriage because you saw something you weren't supposed to see, something you didn't understand then, but you're starting to understand now. My breath hitched. That moment, that one moment I never told my ex-husband, the moment that ended everything. How did this stranger know about it? He leaned closer to the door, voice charged with urgency. She thought you'd tell. She thought you were dangerous. That's why she followed you that night. My stomach twisted painfully. Followed me? My voice cracked. Who followed me? He paused, a pause so heavy I knew the truth lived inside it. Finally, he said her name, Danielle. The woman from the affair, my ex-husband's new partner, the woman he claimed was just a friend, the woman who disappeared. My knees weakened and I braced myself against the wall. The stranger continued, "She didn't believe you left quietly. She believed you found out, and when she confronted him, everything spiraled." I whispered, "Where is she?" Silence. Then he said it. "She never made it home." My breath fractured. He lowered his voice, "And someone thinks you know why." I pressed a trembling hand to my mouth. "And they're not going to stop until they know exactly what you saw." I stepped back again, heart pounding like it was trying to break free from my ribs. "What do you want from me?" I whispered. He didn't answer immediately. Instead, he lifted something toward the peephole, slowly, deliberately. A badge. Law enforcement, but not local, federal. Everything inside me went still. He spoke one last time, voice firm. "Open the door, Madeline, before they get here first." A chill slammed through me so hard I almost dropped to my knees, because I finally understood. I wasn't being haunted by my past. I was being hunted by the truth I never realized I carried. My hand hovered over the lock, trembling just enough for me to notice it. I didn't open the door, not yet. Just because someone flashed a badge didn't mean I owed them access to my home, or my fear, or my trust. I leaned closer, keeping my voice level. "If you really called the police," I said through the door, "then I'll wait for them." A quiet sigh came from the other side, frustrated, not angry. "Madeline, I don't have time to convince you, and neither do you." His tone shifted, sharper. "They're on their way, not my guys, them, and they won't knock." My heart lurched. Who are they? He didn't answer immediately, and that silence cut deeper than any explanation. Instead, he said, "I'm Agent Carter. I'm not here to arrest you. I'm here because you're in the middle of something that started long before you walked away from your marriage." I closed my eyes, grounding myself against the wall. "I don't know anything." "That's the problem," he said quietly. "You don't know what you know." My breath caught. Behind him, a car passed down my street, slow, too slow. Its headlights crawled across my living room floor like searching hands. Agent Carter turned slightly. I could see the shift of his shadow. "They're circling," he murmured. Fear prickled at the back of my neck. "Madeline, please," his voice softened, almost pleading. "You were never supposed to be part of this, but you saw something that night, something Danielle didn't want you to see, and before she disappeared, she told someone." My pulse hammered. "Told them what?" "That you were the only one who could expose everything." My stomach twisted. "I didn't expose anything," I whispered. "No, but they don't know that." My fingers curled around the doorknob again. "Who are they?" "You'll get the full story," he said, "once we're not standing in a doorway that anyone can walk up to." That answer didn't calm me. It inflamed me. I took a slow breath, letting the truth settle inside me like an unwelcome guest. My silence, the peace I had worked so hard to protect, was now being interpreted as something dangerous, strategic, threatening. People were filling my quiet with their fears, or their guilt, or their secrets. And something about that night, the night he didn't come home, was unraveling faster than I could hold on to. A second car rolled to a stop outside. This one didn't keep going. Agent Carter's voice snapped, low and urgent. "That's not my unit." My heart plummeted. I backed away from the door, panic flowering in my chest. What do I do? He pressed his voice flat, controlled. "If you're going to open this door, it has to be right now, because if they knock, it won't be like mine." I looked toward the hallway where Maya's framed photos hung on the wall. Her at 6, her at 9, her first day of middle school. All the years I'd spent building something safe, something stable, something gentle. I wasn't going to lose that now. Not to lies, not to secrets, not to ghosts from a marriage I'd already buried. I stepped toward the door, but when I reached for the lock, something stopped me. A feeling, a memory, a whisper from the night he didn't come home. I pulled my hand back. "If you want me to trust you," I said, voice steady despite the adrenaline burning through me, "tell me what happened to Danielle." A long pause. Then Agent Carter exhaled in a way that told me he'd been hoping I wouldn't ask. Finally, he said, "What we found of her was miles from where she was last seen, and the man she was with that night wasn't your ex-husband." My entire body went cold. "Then who was she with?" I whispered. He hesitated. "That's the part that connects back to you." My breath shattered. Another knock came at the door, loud, aggressive, urgent. 3 knocks, but not his. Agent Carter's voice dropped to a whisper. "Madeline, don't open it." The knocks weren't patient this time. They were forceful, jarring, vibrating through the wood like whoever stood there had no intention of waiting for permission. My breath hitched. Agent Carter's shadow shifted slightly through the peephole, stepping to the side, out of direct view. "Madeline," he whispered through the door, "move away, slowly." I backed up, steps feather light, my pulse pounding so loudly I swore the whole house could hear it. The knocks came again, 3 more, harder, faster, demanding. A man's voice followed, deep and irritated. "Open up, we need to speak to you." It wasn't Carter's voice. It wasn't a neighbor's voice. It wasn't anyone I recognized, and something inside me, the instinct honed through years of emotional survival, told me that the tone wasn't an invitation. It was a warning cloaked in authority. Carter's voice came low again. "They're not police. Do not open that door." My chest tightened. Then who are they? The kind of people who don't like loose ends. My skin chilled. Loose ends to what? "To a network Danielle was tied to," he said. "A network your ex-husband got tangled up in without realizing what she was really involved in." "What kind of network?" I whispered. Carter didn't get to answer. The knocks stopped. Silence fell like a trap snapping shut. Then the doorknob jiggled. My heart slammed. I backed farther away, pressing my hand against my mouth to hold in a gasp. The man outside muttered something to another person. There were 2 of them. I couldn't make out the words, but the sharpness in his voice told me enough. They weren't here to talk. I whispered fiercely, "If you're federal, why can't you just stop them?" "I'm not here officially. I came because someone contacted me off record, someone who wanted to protect you." "Who?" I breathed. Carter hesitated, and the hesitation itself was an answer he didn't want to say. Before he could decide, the man outside tried the knob again, harder this time. Click, click, click. Metal straining, wood creaking. Every muscle in my body tightened. "Madeline," Carter whispered sharply, "get away from the door, now." I scrambled backward, breath shaking. Where do I go? "Back of the house, stay low, don't turn on any lights." I clutched the phone, adrenaline pulsing through my veins as I hurried down the hallway. The photos of Maya stared back at me, each one a memory of a life I'd fought to rebuild, a life now threatened by secrets I didn't understand. I reached the bedroom, shut the door quietly, and crouched beside the nightstand. "Okay," I whispered, forcing myself to focus. "Tell me what's going on." Carter's voice came through the door faintly now, muffled by distance. "Your ex-husband wasn't Danielle's only relationship. She was involved with someone else, someone dangerous, someone connected to the organization I mentioned." I pressed my hand against my chest. "And this person thinks I know he is?" "Yes." "But I don't," I whispered fiercely. "I don't know anything." "That night he didn't come home," Carter began. My breath froze. The memory flashed like lightning. The way he came in the next morning, pale and shaken, the lie he stuttered through, the scratch on his hand he said was from car trouble, the way he paced the house for hours afterwards, checking the windows, the locks, the phone call he took outside, the whispered argument I overheard, frantic, panicked. And the strangest detail, one I hadn't thought about since, his shirt. It wasn't the shirt he'd left the house wearing. "Madeline," Carter said, "what do you remember from that night?" Before I could answer, glass shattered. I screamed, clamping my hand over my mouth too late. Carter cursed loudly, "Back room, now." But I was already in the back room. "Yes," I whispered, trembling, "but they're inside." Footsteps pounded through the living room, heavy, deliberate, unhurried. They weren't searching for valuables. They were searching for me. "Stay hidden," Carter commanded, voice suddenly sharp with command. "I'm coming in." "How?" I whispered. "Through the back. Stay low." I crawled behind the bed, my hand shaking so hard I could barely keep the phone steady. The footsteps grew closer, down the hallway now, stopping outside the bedroom door. Then the handle turned, slowly, silently, like they already knew where I was. My breath caught in my throat. "Madeline," Carter whispered urgently through the phone, "whatever you do, don't make a sound." The door creaked open. Boots stepped on the carpet. 2 of them. The air grew tight, thick, suffocating. And then I heard a voice, one that froze every cell in my body. "Check the closets. She can't have gotten far." But it wasn't a voice of a stranger. It was a voice I knew, a voice that belonged to someone who used to share a bed with me. My ex-husband. For a moment, I thought my mind was playing tricks on me. Trauma can make echoes where there are none. Fear can make familiar voices shapeshift into monsters. But when he spoke again, closer this time, every inch of my skin recognized him. My ex-husband. Here, in my house, moving through the dark like he belonged in spaces I no longer shared with him. "Check the closet," he said again, his tone cold, stripped of the warmth he once performed for the world. "She couldn't have gone far." The floor dipped slightly under their weight as they stepped deeper into the room. I pressed myself flatter behind the bed, my breath shallow and silent. My hand covered my mouth so tightly my fingertips trembled against my lips. The air felt too thin, too used, too dangerous. On the phone, Carter's whisper cracked softly in my ear. "Madeline, do not move. I'm almost inside." But he wasn't here yet, and they were. My ex-husband's footsteps paused. I could almost see him in my mind, head tilted, that calculating expression he used when he was deciding whether to escalate an argument or pretend he didn't care. "You said she'd open the door," the other man whispered harshly. Someone with him, someone big, someone with heavy footsteps and a low growl in his tone. "She usually does," my ex-husband muttered. "She never ignores a knock. She's too polite for her own good." A bitter irony cut through me. Once upon a time, he saw my softness as a weakness. Tonight, he saw it as bait. The other man stepped toward my bathroom. "She's not here." "Then she's in the closet," my ex-husband insisted. "She always hides in the most obvious place." The way he said it, familiar, intimate, confident, made nausea rise in my throat. He was speaking like he knew my instincts better than I did, like the woman he once controlled still lived inside me. But she didn't, not anymore. The closet door swung open with a loud, violent bang. Clothes rustled, hangers clattered, a box fell from an upper shelf, hitting the floor with a hollow thud. "She's not here either," the second man said, irritation growing. My ex-husband cursed under his breath. "This doesn't make sense." "Oh, but it does," the man growled. "You told me she knew something. You told me she's been quiet too long, that she left because she saw something. So either she's lying or you are." I'm not lying, my ex-husband snapped. She left because she found out something she shouldn't have. My blood ran cold. What, the man pressed, exactly did she see? My ex-husband hesitated. I don't know if she understood it, but she saw Danielle that night. Every muscle in my body locked. No, the man corrected darkly. Danielle saw her. My ex-husband suddenly lowered his voice as if he feared being overheard, even though he thought I was hiding in one of the closets. Look, you said she needed to be handled. I'm helping you, but don't act like this was my idea. The man scoffed. You think helping us means you're off the hook. Danielle was your mess, not ours. A wave of shock surged through me. Danielle was your mess, not ours? It hit me with a sickening force. My ex-husband hadn't been an innocent bystander dragged into Danielle's world. He was involved. He was a participant. He was hiding something far darker than an affair. And someone else, this man with him, held the real power. My ex-husband stepped closer to the bed. I could see the shadow of his shoes from where I hid, the faint creak of the floorboard betraying his weight. Maybe she's behind the bed, he muttered. My lungs froze. The man with him growled in annoyance. She's not hiding like a scared little wife. She knows more than you told us. She knows enough to hurt us, and if she's not in this room... His tone dropped into something colder, sharper. Then she's with someone. My ex-husband scoffed. Who? She doesn't talk to anybody. A loud crash echoed from the kitchen. Both men whipped around. What was that? The second man snapped. Probably a cat outside, my ex-husband muttered, but the other man wasn't convinced. No, that was inside the house. My heart slammed against my ribs. Carter, he made it inside. The men rushed toward the hallway. My ex-husband's voice drifted behind him, anxious and strained. She can't get out. We locked the back gate. You better hope she didn't call anyone, because if the wrong people show up, this whole thing falls apart. Their footsteps grew distant. I pressed myself up slowly, shaking, breath ragged, as I crawled toward the opposite side of the bed. My phone buzzed softly. A message from Carter. Don't move. Stay low, close to the wall. I'm in the house. Another message followed before I could blink. And he is not the man you think he is. I stared at those words, my breath quickening. But before I could process them, before fear could shape itself into meaning, a third message appeared. This one colder, this one final, this one shattering the last piece of my old assumptions. He didn't just lie to you, Madeline. He lied to all of us. He was with Danielle the night she vanished. My entire world cracked open. The words on my phone blurred for a moment as the truth slammed into me. He was with Danielle the night she vanished. Not rumored, not assumed, confirmed. A cold wave slid down my spine, leaving my hands numb. Everything I'd buried to survive the divorce clawed its way back up. Every lie he told, every late-night argument he refused to explain, every morning he came home smelling like secrets. My ex-husband wasn't just unfaithful. He was involved, and whatever happened to Danielle that night, he was in it. Voices echoed down the hallway. My ex-husband and the other man moving swiftly, agitated, searching the house for something they were certain existed. Carter announced himself again through a faint whisper from the phone. Madeline, I see them. Stay hidden. I'm positioning behind the kitchen island. I felt my chest tighten. Are you armed? Enough, he whispered, but this isn't a shootout. Not unless he forces it. He, my ex-husband. The realization that Carter's threat wasn't aimed at the other man, but my ex-husband hit me like a punch. I whispered back, "Tell me what he did." Carter didn't answer immediately. Instead, I heard the faint creak of floorboards through the phone, his slow, controlled movement. Then, "Not now, just keep breathing." I crouched lower, heart thundering in my ears. From the hallway, the heavy footsteps grew louder again. They were returning to the bedroom. I flattened myself against the wall, phone pressed to my chest, praying the darkness hid me. My ex-husband spoke first, low, angry. She lied. She said she didn't tell anyone. The other man replied, "She told someone, otherwise you wouldn't be panicking." "I'm not panicking," he hissed, though his voice shook. She was supposed to move on. She wasn't supposed to ask questions. "She hasn't asked anything," the other man growled. "Quiet people don't stay quiet unless they're hiding something." The irony almost choked me. My silence, the one thing I did to protect my peace, had been twisted into a threat in their paranoid minds. The footsteps reached the door. My ex-husband stepped inside. He hesitated. I could see the shadow of his legs from my hiding spot. "Why'd she leave?" the other man asked suddenly. My ex-husband exhaled sharply, like he'd been punched. "Because she saw us." "Us?" The tension in the man's voice sharpened. "Us" meaning what? Me and Danielle. She saw us that night. The room spun. My hand flew to my mouth. The other man spoke with a sudden chill. "How much did she see?" I don't know," he stammered. "She was supposed to be asleep, but when we were driving past the house, Danielle saw movement in the window." I shut my eyes tightly. A memory hit me. Waking up in the middle of the night, a car stopping briefly outside, two silhouettes inside, a flash of Danielle's hair in the streetlight, then the car speeding off before I could understand what I'd seen. He kept talking, voice cracking. "Danielle panicked. She said if my wife saw anything, she'd talk. She said she'd handle it." My breath stilled. Handle it. What did she mean by that? The other man pressed. "I don't know," he snapped, voice breaking. "She told me she'd meet someone after she dropped me off. She said she had leverage, something big, and she'd make it disappear." The man growled, and it disappeared with her. A suffocating silence followed. My ex-husband whispered, "Do you think she told my wife something before... The man said cutthroat, "She didn't trust your wife. She wanted her out of the way." My ex-husband inhaled sharply. "Then why are people watching her? Why are you so interested in what she saw?" "Because Danielle told people she feared your wife, and fear makes people talk. If she talked to the wrong person, this whole operation is exposed." Operation. The word landed like ice water down my spine. "And now," he continued, stepping closer to the doorway, "you've dragged us back here to clean up your mess." Boots shifted on the carpet. I could almost feel the heat of their presence. The man's voice turned pointed, dangerous. "And if she knows something, we can't leave until she's found." My breath caught painfully. My ex-husband whispered, "What if she calls the cops?" "Then we're already dead," the man replied, "so find her." Carter's whisper hit my ear at the exact same moment. "Madeline, on my signal, crawl to the left corner. Stay low. Do not hesitate." My entire body trembled. "I'm scared," I whispered back. "I know," he said, "but fear won't freeze you tonight. It's going to carry you through. Now get ready." Footsteps began moving toward the bed, toward me. Carter whispered, 3, 2. My ex-husband's hand lowered toward the floor, reaching to look under the bed. 1. And just as his fingers swept the carpet, a sound erupted from the kitchen. A crash, a shout, a confrontation exploding into chaos. And I began to crawl. The crash from the kitchen exploded through the house like a grenade of sound. Metal hitting tile, a body slamming into cabinetry, the unmistakable grunt of 2 men struggling. My ex-husband jerked upright, his hand inches from finding me beneath the bed. "What the hell was that?" he shouted. The other man didn't answer with words, just charged toward the hallway, heavy boots pounding the floorboards. My ex-husband followed, nearly tripping over himself in the frantic rush. I didn't wait for Carter's next command. I started crawling, low, fast, silent, heart hammering so hard it shook my vision. My palms burned against the carpet, my knees scraped painfully, but I didn't stop. The noise in the kitchen grew louder, fists, furniture, raw anger. Carter was fighting them, alone. I reached the bedroom corner just as Carter had instructed, but before I could move farther, the voices erupted. "Get off me! Drop it! Where the hell is she?" My ex-husband's voice cut through the chaos. "She's here somewhere. I know she is." I swallowed a sob, because the voice didn't sound like the man I married. It sounded like a man cornered by his own lies, a man who realized the truth he buried had started to dig its way back up. From my hiding spot near the corner, I could see just enough of the hallway, a sliver of light reflecting off the glossy floorboards. Then a body flew past the doorway. Not Carter. My ex-husband. He hit the wall hard, collapsing with a groan. Carter lunged after him, grappling, both fighting desperately for dominance. My ex cried out as Carter pinned him. But the second man, the dangerous one, wasn't down. His heavy footsteps thundered closer. "Move!" Carter yelled at me, not loud, but sharp, precise, cutting through the noise like a blade. I scrambled to my feet and darted from the corner toward the second bedroom, just as the man crashed into Carter, knocking him off my ex-husband with brutal force. Carter shouted, "Madeline, run!" But I didn't make it far. My ex-husband, winded but not down, grabbed my ankle as I passed him. His grip was ironclad, desperate. "Stop!" he roared, voice cracking. I hit the floor with a painful thud, the carpet burning my palms as I slid forward. I kicked wildly, trying to free myself, panic erupting into a primal surge. "Let me go!" I screamed. "Madeline, listen!" he shouted, yanking harder. "You're hurting me!" I cried, kicking again. He froze for just 1 second, just one, because those words, I've said them before, and he always ignored them. His grip loosened, but the other man didn't hesitate. He lunged for me. Carter intercepted him, slamming him into the wall with sheer force. The drywall cracked. The man swung back, grabbing Carter by the collar and throwing him into the kitchen doorway. I took the opportunity. I twisted, kicked free, and scrambled into the hallway. I could hear my ex-husband behind me, breath ragged, scrambling to his feet. "Madeline, wait!" I didn't. I bolted toward the back door. Carter's voice roared behind me. "Don't go outside. Stay inside until I secure..." But it was too late. The back door was already unlocking from the outside. The metal handle turned slowly, deliberately, exactly like the front door earlier. I froze mid-stride. Carter shouted, "No! Get away from there!" My ex-husband screamed my name. "Madeline, don't open!" But I wasn't touching the door. Someone else was. The back door swung open. A figure filled the doorway. Tall, solid, a silhouette outlined by the faint glow of my backyard floodlight. My lungs seized. But it wasn't another attacker. It wasn't an officer either. It was a woman. Her voice cracked with urgency. "Madeline, come with me if you want to live." The kitchen chaos fell silent for a single stunned second. Carter's whisper cut jaggedly through the tension. "Oh my God, it's her!" I turned slowly, trembling. The woman stepped closer, bruised, breathing hard, eyes wide with a terror she clearly hadn't escaped, and I realized the impossible. It was Danielle, alive, broken, and standing in my doorway. "Your ex lied," she gasped. "Everyone lied." I stumbled back, mind spinning. "But you were gone," she breathed. "No, I've been hiding because they want us both dead." My ex-husband screamed from the hallway, voice cracking in a way I had never heard before. "Danielle, no! Don't tell her! Don't you dare!" But Danielle didn't stop. She looked me dead in the eyes. "I know why they're after you," she whispered, "and it's not because of what you saw." She stepped closer, shaking. "It's because of what he did." The house went silent again, but not peacefully, like the moment a storm gathers breath. And then Danielle said something that snapped the floor out from under me. Your ex didn't cheat on you with me. Her voice trembled with the truth she'd held for years. He trafficked me. My heart stopped beating. The walls closed in, the world tilted, and behind me, someone else screamed. My ex-husband. No, no, don't tell her. Don't you dare. Danielle grabbed my wrist, pulling me toward the open doorway. Run, she whispered urgently, before he finishes what he started. For a moment, I couldn't breathe, not because I was scared, but because the truth hit me so hard it knocked the air straight out of my lungs. He trafficked me. The words echoed through my skull with a force that made my vision blur. Danielle, shaking, bruised, terrified, stood in my doorway holding on to me like I was her last lifeline. Behind us, my ex-husband's scream tore through the hallway. Danielle, stop! Stop talking! But Danielle squeezed my wrist tighter. Madeline, we don't have time. You need to hear this on the move. Carter's voice boomed from the kitchen. Get her out, now! The other man, Danielle's captor or handler or whatever he truly was, shoved Carter backward and came barreling toward us. My ex followed behind him, his face twisted with a panic I had never seen on him before. A fear that wasn't about losing me, but losing control. Danielle yanked my arm. Madeline, run! And for the first time tonight, I obeyed without hesitation. We sprinted into the backyard, the cold air slapping against my face. The grass was wet beneath my feet, and the night felt too loud, buzzing with crickets and danger. I could hear Carter and the men fighting behind us, the chaos of fists and grunts, furniture crashing, glass shattering. But Danielle didn't look back. She tightened her grip on my wrist and pulled harder. We can't go through the gate, she panted. They're watching it. Then where? I gasped. She pointed toward the far side of the yard, a part I rarely used. The drainage path behind the fence. It leads to a service road. We can't fit through. We can, she insisted. I did. Her voice cracked on the last word. I did, which meant she'd escaped that way before. My stomach twisted. We reached the back fence just as a loud gunshot exploded inside the house. I froze. Danielle didn't. Go, she cried. She dropped to her knees and started pushing a loose board upward. It shifted just enough to reveal a narrow, dirt-covered opening, barely big enough for a person. I hesitated. Danielle, Carter, what if They won't stop, she cut in sharply. Not until you're dead, because they think you know what I know. And what do you know? I whispered, terrified of the answer. She finally looked at me, really looked at me, her eyes haunted but burning with truth. Your ex-husband wasn't just cheating, he was recruiting, grooming, running girls through his company. And when I tried to leave, when I tried to expose him, he handed me over to them. My knees nearly buckled. No, he wouldn't. He did, she whispered, and when you saw us that night, he panicked, not because he was caught cheating, but because you saw the wrong car, the car of the man he owed. My head spun, bile rising in my throat. I'd always blamed myself for being too emotional, too needy, too insecure. But the real story was monstrous. Danielle grabbed my shoulders. Madeline, I escaped, but the others, they didn't. These men don't get scared unless something can expose them. And you, she jabbed a finger at my chest, you are his wife, his paper trail, his loose end. I shook my head fiercely. No, I don't know anything. But they don't believe that, because Danielle, the girl he loved to blame, told them he wasn't careful with you. Tears blurred my vision. I felt the ground sway beneath me. The truth was so much bigger than betrayal, bigger than cheating, bigger than divorce. My ex-husband had been living a life I didn't recognize, a life wrapped in danger and violence and secrets, and I had slept beside that darkness every night. Before I could respond, a roar exploded behind us. "Madeline!" My ex-husband's voice, close, too close. Danielle shoved me toward the opening. "Go!" I dropped to my hands and knees, squeezing through the narrow gap, dirt scraping my arms. Danielle followed right behind me, breathing hard. But before she could fully exit, fingers clamped around her ankle. My ex-husband's voice hissed, "You're not going anywhere, Danielle." She screamed, clawing forward. I grabbed her arms. "I've got you! Pull!" Her eyes widened with terror. "Madeline, please don't let go." I pulled with everything in me, bracing my feet against the dirt. Her body shifted forward. She almost slipped free. Then another pair of hands grabbed my waist, pulling me backward. I screamed. "Let her go!" I shrieked. "Let her go!" Danielle cried. "Let both of you go!" Carter roared from somewhere above us. The world turned into a violent tug of war. Carter dragging me back, Danielle clinging to my hands, my ex-husband clutching her ankle with monstrous strength. And then a loud crack, a yelp of pain. Danielle's legs slipped free. She scrambled through the opening as the board snapped back down, sealing us outside in the cold night. We landed on the dirt path, gasping, shaking, staring at each other in pure disbelief. But before we could speak, a flashlight beam cut through the darkness. Heavy footsteps approached. Someone was coming down the path. Danielle whispered, her voice filled with dread. "It's not over. They found us." The flashlight beam sliced through the dark like a blade, wobbling slightly with each heavy step approaching us. Danielle grabbed my arm, pulling me deeper into the drainage path, her breath ragged and shallow. "They're faster than I thought," she whispered. "We have to keep moving." My legs shook beneath me, adrenaline burning through my veins. The night air cut cold across my face, mixing with dirt and sweat. The world felt too quiet except for our breaths and the footsteps behind us. They were steady, heavy, unhurried, footsteps of men who were used to hunting, not chasing. I gripped Danielle's hand. "Who is that? Your captor? His partner?" She shook her head without looking back. "No, worse." My throat tightened. "Worse than the man in my house?" "Yes," she said, "because he's not working alone. He's here because your ex-husband begged him to finish what Danielle messed up." I froze. "What I messed up?" Danielle stopped too. She turned toward me, her face illuminated by the faint spill of moonlight. Her eyes were red-rimmed, full of a truth she seemed terrified to say. "You weren't supposed to see us that night," she said. "Not the two of us in that car, and definitely not the man sitting in the back seat." My stomach dropped violently. "There was someone else?" "Yes," her voice shook, "and he's the reason I disappeared." Before I could ask more, the footsteps quickened behind us, closer now, maybe 30 feet away. "Move!" Danielle hissed. We ran again, feet slamming against the damp dirt path, branches clawed at our clothes. My lungs burned, but the footsteps behind us stayed steady, methodical, confident, like he knew exactly where we were going. Ahead, the drainage path widened into a small clearing lit only by distant streetlights. A chain-link fence stood at the far end, tall and rusting, the only way out. "We'll never climb that," I gasped. Danielle sprinted toward it anyway. "Yes, we will. It's barbed at the top, but we don't have a choice." We scrambled to the fence. Danielle gripped the links and began to climb, her hands shaking. I followed, my fingers slipping over the cold metal. Behind us, the man finally spoke. His voice was calm, cold, too familiar. "Danielle, stop running." Danielle froze mid-climb. Her entire body stiffened as though struck. "No, not him, not him, not here!" My heart seized. "Who is he?" I breathed. She looked down, eyes filled with horror. "He worked with your husband." Another piece of my old life snapped in half. The man stepped into the clearing, lifting the flashlight until it illuminated his face. My entire world tilted. It wasn't a stranger. It wasn't a criminal from some dark underworld. It was someone I'd met before. Someone who used to come to our barbecues. Someone who brought a bottle of wine to our anniversary dinner. Someone I had hugged goodbye 100 times in my own living room. My ex-husband's coworker, the one he claimed was harmless. But his eyes weren't the soft, friendly eyes I remembered. Tonight, they were cold, dead, voracious. He looked at Danielle first. "You should have stayed gone." Then he looked up at me. "Madeline, come down. You don't want to do this." Everything in me rebelled. "Stay away from me." "Your husband didn't want you involved. He begged us to spare you if possible. But if you run..." He shrugged, a terrifying, casual shrug. "Then it's out of our hands." Danielle began climbing again, panicked. "We have to go. He's lying. He always lies." The man took another step toward the fence. "Danielle, think carefully. If you leave with her, you won't survive the night." Danielle turned, voice trembling with rage. "Neither will she if she stays." Before he could respond, a second pair of footsteps echoed behind him. My blood froze. My ex-husband stepped into the clearing. His face was wild, sweat on his forehead, dirt on his shirt, eyes wide with desperation. "Stop!" he screamed. "Stop right now!" He pointed at the man with the flashlight. "She's my wife! You weren't supposed to touch her!" But the coworker didn't even look at him. "Your wife saw something she shouldn't have. You had one job: keep her blind." Danielle spat from the fence. "You idiot! She's seen everything now." My ex's voice broke. "Madeline, please, just come down. I can fix this. I can fix all of this." Something in me cracked, a dam that had held back years of truth. "You sold her," I whispered. "You sold Danielle, and now you're trying to sell me?" He flinched like I slapped him. No, it wasn't like that. Madeline, please, I was trying to protect us." "By giving her to them?" I screamed. Tears flooded my vision. My hand shook so badly, I almost lost my grip on the fence. Danielle shouted down from above. "He didn't protect you, Madeline. He protected himself. He always has." The coworker's voice cut in sharply. "Time's up." He lunged forward. My foot slipped. My grip faltered. Danielle reached down, grabbing my wrist. "Don't let go!" My ex-husband grabbed my ankle from below. "Madeline, please!" And in the chaos, the man lifted something shiny in his hand. A weapon, aiming upward, at me. A deafening crack split the night. A gunshot, and someone screamed. But in that moment, hanging from the fence with two hands pulling me in two different directions, I didn't know who had been hit. The gunshot shattered the night, echoing through the drainage path like a lightning strike. My ears rang, my grip slipped, and for a split second, the world hung suspended. Danielle's scream tore through the darkness, raw and unrestrained. "Madeline, hold on!" But my body lurched sideways, my fingers sliding against the cold metal fence. Pain shot up my arm as someone's weight yanked me downward. For a moment, I thought it was my ex-husband again, but then he groaned, collapsing against the fence as his hand slipped from my ankle. He'd been shot. Not dead, his breathing was still there, ragged and shallow, but he was down. The coworker swore loudly. "Get up! We're not done! Get up!" My ex-husband didn't move. Danielle gripped my wrist tighter. "Climb, Madeline, climb!" But my body was shaking so violently I could barely feel my hands. The fence rattled beneath me as Danielle anchored herself, pulling me upward with everything she had left. My foot found a gap, then another. Below us, the coworker lifted his weapon again, pointing upward toward the two of us. His voice was calm, terrifyingly calm. "Last chance. Come down, both of you." Danielle spat toward him, anger overshadowing her terror. "Go to hell!" He tightened his grip on the weapon. Then, another gunshot. But this one didn't come from him. It came from behind. A voice roared behind the man, filled with fury I had never heard. "Drop the gun!" Carter. He was alive. The co-worker spun around, shock splintering across his face. Carter charged him, slamming him onto the dirt so hard the flashlight burst from his hand and rolled away. The gun flew in the opposite direction, disappearing in the tall grass. Danielle kept pulling me upward until I reached the top of the fence. The barbed wire scraped my arm, tearing into skin. Pain ignited hot and fast, but I didn't stop. I swung one leg over, then the next. "Jump!" Danielle yelled, already on the other side. "I can't!" My voice shook. "Yes, you can!" Behind us, the co-worker shrieked like a cornered animal as Carter fought him. Metal clanged, fists collided. Rage and desperation filled the clearing. I looked down. It wasn't far, maybe 6 feet, but my legs trembled so hard I couldn't trust them. Danielle grabbed my wrist through the fence. "Madeline, you survived worse than this. Jump!" Her words hit something deep inside me, the version of me who rebuilt her life quietly, who rose without applause, who healed without permission. I released my grip. I fell. The ground hit me hard, knocking the breath out of my lungs, but I rolled with the impact like Danielle shouted. Pain radiated across my hip and shoulder, but I was intact, alive. Danielle helped me to my feet just as Carter yelled behind the fence, "Run! Get to the road!" I turned toward the dark service path, but Danielle hesitated. "Madeline," she whispered, eyes wide, "he's not trying to kill you." My chest heaved. "He literally sent men after me." "No," she shook her head, tears streaming down her face. "He wasn't. They were." "What are you talking about?" I demanded. She swallowed hard. "Your ex? He didn't want you dead. He wanted you unaware, protected through ignorance. But the moment he realized you weren't blind anymore," she wiped her cheek, "he panicked because he knew what they were capable of." My knees went weak. "You're saying he tried to save me?" "No," she whispered. "He tried to control the damage." Her voice quivered. "He never expected you to become dangerous, but your silence scared them more than anything. Quiet people notice things. Quiet people put things together. Quiet people destroy empires without throwing a single punch." Behind the fence, Carter shouted again, "Go! Now!" Danielle grabbed my hand. "You ready?" "No," I whispered honestly, "but I'll run anyway." So we ran. The service road was dimly lit, cracked and deserted. We didn't stop until we reached the far end, lungs burning, legs shaking. Finally, sirens. Red and blue lights pierced the night as law enforcement vehicles sped toward us. Carter must have triggered a distress call. Officers poured out, weapons raised, scanning the area. An agent rushed to me. "Are you Madeline?" I nodded numbly. "Come with us. You're safe now." For the first time all night, I believed it. Hours later, sitting in a sterile interview room with a blanket around my shoulders, Carter finally entered, blood on his temple, dirt on his shirt, breath still unsteady. "You're lucky," he said softly, sitting across from me. I swallowed. "Is he, my ex, is he alive?" Carter nodded. "Yes, he is. He'll face charges, both from us and from the state, but he protected you at the end more than he ever protected Danielle." "It doesn't erase what he did," I whispered. "No," said Carter, "but it explains why he fought so hard to find you tonight." Silence settled between us. "What happens now?" I finally asked. Carter leaned forward, eyes steady. "Now," he said, "you rebuild again, only this time not quietly, not alone, and not in the shadow of a man who stole your life." A tear slid down my cheek, not of fear, not of grief, but of release. I survived, and this time my healing wouldn't be silent. It would be deliberate, unapologetic, powerful. I stood slowly, the blanket falling from my shoulders as I breathed in the cold air of the hallway. I wasn't the woman who left that marriage quietly. I wasn't the woman who hid from her own pain. I wasn't the woman defined by betrayal or fear. I was something else now, something stronger than every secret that tried to break me. When the officers walked me toward the exit, I felt my spine straighten, my heartbeat steady, my steps purposeful. Every woman who survives reinvents herself. Tonight, I stepped into the next version of me. If you learned something new from my life story, please like this video, subscribe to join our community for more stories like mine, and comment down below where you're watching this video from. I truly love to know.